Hi guys, this is Tim. I just posted a video from YouTube about life after death. Um, in looking at that thing, I don't know if you have a chance to take a look at that. I don't know what your positions are on death and life and whatever. I'm 64 years old, so I've lived a lot of my life. Um, but about 3 years ago, when I moved here to San Antonio, I was stricken by a stroke. Came out of the blue, didn't know what was happening. Um, Long story short, I had what I believe was a allergic reaction to a bumblebee sting, because I had a bumblebee sting that occurred to me while I was outside. And later that night, I went to sleep, and I didn't wake up again for 4 months. And in that time, I went to the hospital, and they couldn't diagnose what was going on with me, and they ended up doing I had a bunch of swelling on my brain, um, and they ended up putting a shunt in there to drain it off, and they put a tube that goes down the back of my head, goes down into my stomach, to drain off the excessive, they call synovial fluid. But I didn't know anything about that. I was in the hospital. I was unconscious completely. One day I woke up out of what was basically an artificially induced coma they put me in to try to let my brain heal after the surgery. Um, while I was there in the hospital, several things happened to me. I did not wake up for about 4 months. Okay, they didn't think I was going to make it. Um, I woke up one morning. I see my nurse going by. I see her little white bottom in her little white dress walking by. She's doing something to me, and I open my eyes and I see her, and I like open my eyes up wide because I think I'm dreaming. So anyway, I wake up and she goes, "Oh, Mr. Quigley, we've been waiting to see if you were going to wake up or not. Let me go get the doctor." So she leaves, and I'm like looking around the room at all of this, and there's all this stuff coming out of me, machines beeping, and monitors going on, and he comes in and he says, "Oh, Mr. Quigley, you've had a major event." And I said, "Well, where am I?" And he said, "Well, you're in University Hospital here in San Antonio, Texas." I says, "Okay." I said, "How long have I been here?" He said, "At that time, I think I'd been there 3 months." He said, "About 3 months." And I said, what happened?" And he said, "Well, you had a stroke, and we had to do an operation to relieve the pressure on your brain." I said, "Okay." So I'm taking this in. I have no idea what's going on. I'm in a strange place I've never seen before, talking to people I've never met before, and so on and so forth. So from that point forward, they managed to keep me going. I had all sorts of IVs. I was not even on solid food or anything. I went from 220 pounds to 160 pounds while I was in the hospital. I was there like a total of 6 months. And during that time period, I had several visions that came to me. Now, they told me I was under a lot of medications, and that the artificially induced coma, was to help me, manage, functions and stuff like that. So I understood that part. But what I didn't understand was I had these visions that happened to me. And here's the first one that happened. I was sitting in the bed and I'm watching TV, and all of a sudden I go into a dream state. I don't know if I fall asleep or what happened there, but I dream I'm walking down a long corridor, and I'm walking and I'm walking, and it's white light. Okay, everywhere. The walls are white, the ceiling's white, the floor is white, everything's white. And I'm walking down this corridor, and I see two double doors at the end of the corridor. So I push the doors open and I walk inside, and the air is like totally still, no movement, nothing at all. And I see a bunch of people in this room, and they all start calling my name at once. "Tim, da 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 da." And I go, "Whoa, whoa," I hold up my hands. "Stop." I said, I can't hear all of you. You're all talking at once. Stop, please." And they did. And then out of this group of people, I'm looking at it, and I can see people that I know. I see my mom. She had passed away in 2003. I saw my dad there. He had passed away in 1994. I saw my oldest brother there, and he had just recently passed away. My oldest brother, he was like 75, and he died of a stroke and was gone in 3 days. Same thing that happened to my dad. He had a stroke and he was gone in 3 days. So I see all these people in there, and out of the group comes my grandmother. And I had not seen my grandmother since she had passed away in 1963. And I knew it was my grandmother because she came up to me and said, "Tim," and she had these big bifocals on that she always wore, and always had her hair permed in a certain way, and so I recognized her immediately, and I said, "Grandma," I said, "what's going on?" She says, "Tim," she says, you can't stay here. You have to go back." And I said, "But Grandma, I don't want to go back." I said, "You guys are all here." I said, this seems like a beautiful place to be. It's just like, I couldn't quite describe it completely. But I wanted to be there, and I did not want to go back. And she said, "But you have to go back. It's not your time." And I looked at her, and the next thing I remember, I'm back in the hospital bed. So that really shook me up. The doctor came on his rounds a couple of days later, and when he was there, it was a teaching hospital, and he always had a whole string of trainee doctors behind him, and he was always, going to seeing the patients and, talking about the case or whatever with them. And so I said to him right in front of everybody, I said, "Doc," I said, "I got to get out of here." I said, "I'm afraid I'm going to be here forever." I said, you got to help me." So he says, "Okay." He says, "We'll do that." He says, "What do you need?" I said, "Well," I said, "I need to get ambulatory. I need to be able to walk again." I couldn't walk. I couldn't get to the bathroom to go to the bathroom. I was wearing diapers. I was so embarrassed at my situation, had no control over it. He says, "Okay, we'll help you." So they did. The therapy people came in, and they got me up, and they started making me do the things I needed to do. And it was very painful because I hadn't walked in months, and my legs were not working. So I worked with it, and I got out of the hospital. It took me another month and a half of intensive therapy. Every day they came and got me and took me to therapy and walked me through everything I had to do. So I'm still recovering in the hospital, and I remember another vision. And this vision was, and again, if you go on the internet and see any people that have witnessed their near-death experiences, I remember being in the operating room, and I remember floating up above the operating table and looking down on all the doctors and nurses with all their utensils spread out, forceps and scalpels and everything spread out on tables next to me. And I remember looking down from about 10 feet high, and I could see everything in the room all at once. I could take it all in. And I'm looking down at the utensils on the table that they're operating with, and I can see the metallicness. I don't know how exactly to explain this, but everything was like electric. I could see the molecular structure of these instruments. I could see the metal and what it was made of. And I'm looking at this, and I'm looking around, and I'm watching what's going on, and I eventually woke up out of that. But I remember very distinctly that sequence of events that happened to me. So, when you talk about near-death experiences and things like that, it changed my life. It really did. I had, at that point, when I realized what had happened, and I talked to my doctor about it, and I talked to a few other people about it, I realized that I had an incredible experience. I came out of it basically looking totally differently at life. I realized that I had to, be a better person, that I wasn't ready to go to heaven, and I was flatly told I was denied at the gates. It just freaked me out. I just went, whoa. I thought I'd always go to heaven. So, I had to think the whole thing through, and I've become a better person for it. I just, I don't let things get to me. I don't let things, rattle me. I always know that there's an answer to everything. You just have to patiently wait for it and find it and then work with it. that people are people, and everybody acts differently in different situations. The people that I talk to about this, a lot of people look at me like, well, you're kind of crazy, Tim. And I go, yeah, I kind of am. But you know what? I had an experience you haven't had yet. Some doors were opened up to me that you haven't found yet. So, and I would tell this to people, like if I'd see somebody in a wheelchair, like if I was in a grocery store or something like that, and I could tell they were in tough shape, I'd walk up to them, and whoever was the caregiver right there, I would say, would you let me talk to them for just a minute? I said, I've got an important thing to tell them. And they go, okay, go ahead. So I would tell them my story about my vision, and I would tell them that there is a heaven, and that you will go there if you do things correctly. If you don't do things correctly, who knows where you go. But I explained to them, what I saw, who I saw, what they said to me about it wasn't my time to go back. So I explained it to them, and I said, have faith. No matter how bad you feel right now, and no matter how bad it looks for you, be patient. There's a better time coming. Don't be afraid of death. If death comes, don't be afraid. Embrace it. Go to the next level. So that's the message I've given, and I've said that to many people, who I thought needed a little discussion. So that's my experiences. I don't know how other people have reacted to their experiences, because I've been told people have had similar experiences. So that's it. I just thought I'd share that with everybody for what it's worth. Play this back if you need to. Listen to what I have to say. Email me or respond to the video.